When I moved to a new city, I thought being a night watchman for one quiet street would be easy work. Ravenwood Lane. That's what they called it. The first night I arrived just before 9. By the time I walked halfway down the street, every house was dark. No porch lights, no TVs flickering behind curtains, no soft murmur of late-night conversations, just silence. Thick, heavy, unnatural. At first I thought I was just late. Maybe this was one of those rare neighborhoods where people actually slept early. But the silence, it didn't feel right. The next morning, I visited a nearby convenience store for breakfast. I casually joked about how the whole street seemed scared of the dark. The boy at the counter froze. His hands trembled slightly as he asked, "You work there?" When I nodded, he said nothing. He just shook his head, eyes wide, and refused to meet mine again. A few nights later, I spotted something wrong. A family, a man, a woman, and 2 children, walking down the center of the street. No flashlights, no sound of footsteps, just drifting. I called out to them, but they didn't turn. They didn't run. They simply faded into the mist. The following night, I heard children laughing from the playground nearby. When I rushed over, it was empty. The swings creaked as if someone had just jumped off them. The merry-go-round spun slowly, as if it had been set into motion moments before. The real terror began when I saw the family again. This time, they weren't out in the street. They were inside a house I knew was abandoned. I shouted, "Who's there?" and spun around. They were standing right behind me, silent, watching. That's the last thing I remember from that night. I woke up at my post the next morning, drenched in sweat, heart pounding. From that day, the street felt wrong. I tried to investigate, checking the homes one by one. Every single house was empty, deserted, dust thick on every surface, cobwebs everywhere. Yet every night the lights would flicker back on, curtains would move, shadows would watch me. One morning I noticed something even worse. A large ancient bungalow at the end of the street. I swear, it wasn't there before. It stood crooked, its walls weeping black stains. Vines strangled its frame like skeletal hands. Against all reason, I walked toward it. The moment I stepped inside its broken gate, the sky darkened. Time itself seemed to snap. Morning turned instantly to night. Inside, the air was thick and heavy. Shadows clung to the walls like living things. And there they were again, the family. Standing still, waiting for me, I demanded, "Who are you? What do you want?" For a long, long moment there was only silence, until a deep, broken voice answered from the darkness, "Guard my family." Before I could react, the world twisted. The front door disappeared. The windows melted into the walls. The night swallowed everything. I don't know how long it's been now. Days, months, centuries maybe. Every night I patrol Ravenwood Lane, watching, guarding, never sleeping, never seeing the sun again. I became the night watchman. And so will you, if you ever dare to enter. It was my first night working at the city morgue, and my nerves were already frayed. As I clocked in, I encountered an elderly cleaner finishing up his shift, whistling softly to himself. He glanced up, noticed my apprehension, and chuckled lightly. "First night, huh?" he asked with a crooked smile. "Just watch out for the ghosts. They get restless after midnight," he added jokingly, though something about his eyes suggested he wasn't entirely kidding. Laughing nervously, I watched him shuffle away, leaving me alone in the oppressive silence of the morgue. The flickering fluorescent lights above seemed restless, casting shadows that danced ominously, whispering secrets I wasn't sure I wanted to hear. My heart quickened slightly, an instinctive reaction to the unfamiliar yet unsettling environment. I adjusted my coat, rubbing my arms for warmth as I began my routine check. The monotonous hum of refrigeration units reverberated through the corridors, creating a chilling backdrop to my lonely rounds. My camera felt unusually heavy tonight, burdened perhaps by anticipation or maybe something more sinister. I hesitated briefly before opening the door to cold storage, bracing myself against the inevitable wave of frigid air that clawed at my skin. A single gurney occupied the center of the room, draped in a spotless white sheet, silent and still. I steadied my camera, taking the first photo. The flash momentarily lit the room, leaving ghostly afterimages floating across my vision. As my eyes readjusted, a prickling sensation crept along the back of my neck, the unmistakable feeling of being watched. Whirling around sharply, I scanned the shadow-filled corners. Empty. Shaking off my nerves, I turned back to the gurney and snapped another photo. But in that fleeting burst of light, I noticed something different. The body's shape beneath the sheet seemed altered, slightly twisted. Pulse quickening, I reached out tentatively, fingertips barely brushing the cold fabric. Before I could lift the sheet, every refrigeration unit in the morgue abruptly ceased, plunging the room into an eerie silence. The quiet pressed heavily upon me, suffocating and absolute. "Hello." My voice trembled, barely penetrating the oppressive stillness. Then, softly, a whisper floated through the silence behind me, sending a chill cascading down my spine. I spun slowly around. The door, previously secured, now stood ajar, darkness seeping into the room like ink spilled in water. "Who's there?" My voice cracked, betraying my fear. Silence again, stretching agonizingly before a sudden rustling erupted behind me. Whipping around, my stomach dropped. The white sheet lay discarded on the floor, empty. The gurney gleamed coldly under the fluorescent glare, devoid of its occupant. Panic surged through me as soft, wet footsteps echoed from the corridor, pausing briefly before hurriedly retreating. Survival instinct ignited, gripping my camera tight. I bolted into the hallway. Darkness loomed on either side, stretching endlessly into shadows. The light sputtered and died momentarily, plunging me into pitch-black terror. In that brief darkness, a cold breath whispered chillingly against my ear, "Why did you wake me?" I'd always found something strangely calming about working the night shift at the old Brookside Hotel. The quiet hum of distant machinery, flickering lights casting strange shadows, and the creaks and whispers of the aging building had become a familiar comfort. But after last night's shift, any peace I'd felt in darkness has been shattered. It began just after midnight. The security monitors displayed empty hallways, grainy black and white footage flickering lazily. Then I saw it, a shadow darting swiftly across the screen, vanishing into room 317. My heart skipped a beat. The room had been empty for weeks. "Hello," my voice echoed, absurdly loud in the silence. Static crackled violently from the radio beside me. A voice, thin and cracked, whispered through the noise, "Room 317. I felt a chill ripple down my spine. Swallowing hard, I grabbed my flashlight and keycard, telling myself it had to be some technical glitch. As I approached the hallway, each step felt heavier, as though invisible hands were pulling at my ankles. The air thickened, pressing against my lungs, making it difficult to breathe. Room 317's door was ajar just slightly. My flashlight sputtered, casting erratic, elongated shadows down the corridor. I pushed the door gently. It opened with an eerie, groaning protest. The room inside was pitch black, colder than ice. My breath formed clouds in the air. A sudden draft slammed the door shut, locking me in the oppressive darkness. I spun around, heart racing, panic gripping my throat. "Who's there?" My voice was barely a hoarse whisper. A giggle, sharp and mocking, echoed softly from a shadowed corner. My flashlight danced frantically, searching for the source, revealing nothing but peeling wallpaper and dark stains. "Do you want to play?" the voice whispered again, closer this time, cold breath brushing my neck. I jerked away, stumbling backward. Shadows moved independently of the light, twisting and swirling with sinister purpose. I felt something ice-cold clutch my wrist, fingers thin and skeletal, gripping tightly enough to bruise. I wrenched free, screaming, and lunged for the door. It wouldn't budge. Behind me, slow footsteps shuffled closer, accompanied by soft, wheezing laughter. "Stay with me," it pleaded mournfully, desperation mixing with menace in the chilling voice. With a final burst of terrified strength, I slammed my shoulder into the door, stumbling out into the hallway. Breathless, I glanced back. Standing just beyond the threshold was a shadowy figure. Small, pale eyes glinting faintly, a ghostly smile stretching impossibly wide. I ran back to the front desk and spent the rest of the night trembling, watching every shadow with suspicion, desperately counting the minutes until sunrise. Now, in daylight, the memory lingers, a persistent chill at the back of my mind. As the sun sets again, I know one thing for certain. I must return tonight, and whatever haunts room 317 will be waiting, whispering, eager for my arrival.